Here we are. What a strange, awkward entrance. Here we are. Welcome back. Vinyl finds 100 and something. I never know the number. One of these days I'll remember to check before. Hope you're doing well. I hope you all liked the ASMR video, or at very least appreciated it. I was just messing around to see what would happen. But the one thing that's undeniable is these records here that I showed are all pretty amazing records. I just watched back through the video before, and sometimes I'm amazed how much cool shit I have in my collection, which is such a weird thing to say, but to see them all like that, flipping through them all, it's good. It's really good. Yeah, so here we are, vinyl finds of all kinds. I've got a stash of things here. There's about 10 records. I am seriously behind this new format and obviously showing less records. So I'm getting through them slowly, and I've also been on a bit of a buying spree that I really need to curb. A few opportunities have come up here and there that I just couldn't resist and couldn't pass on. And there's more coming up in a couple of weeks too. Don't really have any personal use for you, really. I am growing my hair out. As you probably noticed, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm just going to see what happens. I don't know. We will see. Yeah, I just watched the New Zealand All Whites football team versus Ireland this morning, which they lost 3-1, which was a shame. But they played really well, and they hadn't played a game in almost 2 years, which is absolutely crazy. And it's the international break for the football, or the soccer, as I call it for the Americans. Yeah, I've just gonna have a quiet weekend. I spent last weekend in Auckland, and I did some serious digging, some serious spending, and I got some really killer records, which I'm really excited about. Again, like I said, lots of new reissues. I did try and make like a vlog type video. It started off with good intentions, had some cool footage, and then I just got too busy. And once you get to a record store, I was like, I'm digging. I don't really have time to film. It just didn't happen, so I'm not going to do that. But I will try and get out and do some around Wellington as we get further into summertime. Yeah. That's all, really. What else has happened? I'm really excited that Stereolab have announced a show here in Wellington, which is amazing. I've always said to friends, name a band that you would love to be able to see live, and that was Stereolab. I really thought the ship had sailed on that band. I thought, I was really surprised that they've reformed. Well, they didn't really break up, but have come back and they're playing here. So I'm very, very excited. But yeah, that's it. Let's get into the records. I am a bit unprepared. Hopefully the Needledrops will enlighten you a lot more than my descriptions, but we'll see. First up, I've been into a lot of reggae in the past couple of weeks. It's obviously getting to spring. You can probably tell it's really nice outside. And I found a copy of this, which I've been after for some time. I was hoping to get a original of it, but this reissue popped up and it was marked down, so it was really cheap. So I snapped it up straight away. So this is a 2018 reissue on New Sound, which it was originally on, which is Adrian Sherwood's label. I'm going to post a link to a really interesting interview I watched a couple of weeks ago with Adrian Sherwood, and featuring my favorite comedian, who's Stewart Lee. So I'm going to post a link to that. That was really cool hearing him talk. But yeah, what is this? Obviously, On You Sound, UK reggae label. They really focused on. What do I know? This is me talking from what I think I know. A lot of this, Adrian Sherwood came on board. I think it was around '82, and pushed some of the reggae stuff into a really interesting, I guess, more of a digital production, or modernizing electronic sounds a lot more, and really fucking with the studio effects. I guess moving away from a more analog approach, and a lot of the On You Sound stuff that I've heard sounds a lot more metallic, I guess, and really trippy. This is a really great record. Some really weird shit going on here. even a Doctor Who cover. So obviously the link, if you're a reggae fan, you'll know this is a bit of a tongue-in-cheek reference to east of the River Nile. East of the River Nile, and this is north of the River Thames, so that's obviously a massive nod to the Augustus Pablo album. But this is by Dr. Pablo and the Dub Syndicate. Dub Syndicate are sort of made up of the same sort of four guys that play across a whole bunch of On You Sound stuff. And Dr. Pablo is not actually Augustus Pablo under an alias. It's actually a guy called Dr. Pablo who was really influenced by Augustus Pablo's melodica playing, and put this out. And it's really interesting. You know, I was a bit unsure in case it was going to be some sort of strange tribute to Augustus Pablo in a not a very interesting way, but just the stuff they did with the production on this is really, really interesting. And it's a really well done reissue. Yeah, really, really fantastic record. I really enjoy this. I think you guys should check it out. Sip of water. Okay, next up we have this record here. What a fantastic cover straight away that is. This is a record that I found when I was back in Melbourne a couple of months ago. It's obviously called Fusioon with a double O. Something that I had been aware of for many years through seeing it on various old vinyl community videos, and I think in Facebook pages possibly. I saw that it got reissued, and I didn't buy the reissues, and I sort of was like, I'll get around to it one day. But then this copy popped up when I was in the Searchers in Melbourne for a really cheap price. It is not an original, but it's some sort of unknown, possibly 80s pressing on the replica label, which actually it sounds amazing. Now, the simplest and the easiest and probably the laziest way to describe this record would be a Spanish egg. Isn't it Spanish eggs? That's like a breakfast meal, isn't it? What's Spanish eggs? I feel like that is something. It sounds like the band Egg, the Canterbury band, if they were Spanish. Because, yeah, they sing in Spanish. They're all Spanish. All the titles are in Spanish. There's some really mild hints of Spanish or Latin influences, but really minor. But it's basically just a Canterbury prog record out of Barcelona, and it's really fantastic. Really weird. It's like those Canterbury records, those Egg records. They're so fucking serious sometimes. And they're so English in a way that this is just, it has that feel and has that sound, but it's fun. I mean, look at the cover, look at the title, look at these dudes. It's you know, Canterbury prog can be very serious, and this does it just as well, adds a bit of whimsy to it, I guess in a more Spanish way. What a weird description, but that's how I'd describe it. I think it's really, really excellent. I'm really happy to finally get a copy of that. That's a big tick. Okay, next up, speaking of English bands, this is The Fall, and this is Early Years. I found this at a record fair a couple of weeks ago. I've been after it for quite a while, and I've seen the prices go anything from $25, which is what I paid for this, to I saw it sell in Auckland for $99. So it's all over the place for some reason. this is really good because it's basically all you need for the early fall stuff. So it's from the years 77 to 79. So all those early 45s and singles are all on here. And there's a couple of live stuff on it too. So I probably could have tracked down the Live Dream of a Casino Soul, Roush Rumble, what else is on here? Psycho Mafia singles, but this is probably the easiest way to get those early tracks that I don't think you can get on a record anywhere else, unless there's a greatest hits, which I don't think there is. So yeah, finally happy to have this. Roush Rumble, Psychic Dance Hall, Bingo Masters Breakout, Psycho Mafia are the big hits, or the ones that I know the most. I used to have I downloaded a torrent many years ago, and these are the first songs I ever heard by The Fall. So yeah, really happy. This is pretty much all I need now for the Fall records that I really want. I mean, there's always more Fall records. You know, they're all sort of the same, but they're all sort of different. But of the ones I really want, this one sort of completes the Fall bit. I'm not going to say no to more Fall records. You know, if you see them cheap, you pick them up. The one actually that I probably do really want to find is an original of Slate's, which is like the 10-inch live album. I'm pretty sure it's a live album. But I'll find that one day. It's not super hard to find. Okay, where do we go here? God, I've got a lot to get through. It's going to be a long video, so settle in. Although you would know this already because you've seen the length of the final cut or whatever. Okay, another one I found in Australia that I've been after for a while, Groundhog Split. Now, this is a band that, again, back to the VC a long time ago. People talked about this, and I had no interest in this. People described it as a really great blues rock band, and I'm not really into blues rock, as you will probably tell by long-time viewers of the channel. I'm not massively into the blues. I would like to go there at some point and really focus and have a listen, but I sort of just, I've listened to later albums and albums before this one, but I've just listened to this on Spotify completely by accident about 2 years ago now, and I was really blown away by it. Not what I expected at all. This is like it's a bit of a stretch, but sounds like a Kraftwerk record in times. Parts of it remind me of Armandul, or maybe Hawkwind or something like that. Just some really heavy grooves going on. Really psychedelic. I mean, if that cover doesn't say, what it's like, this is what it's like. I think this is a fantastic record. I don't think I've ever seen anyone show this record in the VC. Probably not. Or maybe I just don't watch the right people. But yeah. The first side is it's just called Split, and there's part 1, 2, 3, 4, and that works as a whole suite. Absolutely worth a look. They do one sort of bluesy track, and that's called Groundhog, which is the last track on side 2. But overall, this is very different. This is an Australian pressing. It's a gatefold. I'm not sure if you can see here, but it's actually got a really nice textured cover on it. So yeah, really happy to get that. That's Split by Groundhogs. For anyone that's interested, it's on United Artists, and that is the label. Is this a US press? No, I'm sure it's not. I'm sure it's a Australian pressing. Anyway, whatever. I'm going to move forward a bit, just so I'm in the frame a bit more. Okay, we'll go. So that was, since in the last Vinyl Fights I did a geography theme. Let's just keep that going. The Groundhogs are from the UK. This next band is from the UK. This is a record that Fred Big Star 1000 turned me on to. probably last year. And if that cover doesn't get your attention, I'm not sure what will. This is the band Brinsley Schwarz, which I can never pronounce, and which I also think is a terrible bad name. But this is Nick Lowe's band very early on, who obviously went on to do a lot of production work as well, and stuff with Elvis Costello, I think, but I could be wrong about that. This is basically sounds like a really soft rock, country rock, laid back. The main thing it reminds me of, which is not any of those, is the really nice acoustic tracks from Pink Floyd's Metal. Not the first track, but the second and third track has that really nice, warm, laid back groove and feel to it. This has that, quite a lot of that. So, I think this is really good. I'm not going to vouch for their later stuff, but as this record it's super enjoyable. It just sounds really warm and summery, and just a really nice laid back groove to it, I guess. Unfortunately, I've been looking for this for obviously about a year now, and it's one of those records that should have popped up sooner, but it hasn't, and it's been harder and harder to find. And eventually this popped up for an okay price for what it is. It's a New Zealand pressing. But I really want to get a German or US press because it's on a really thick gatefold. This is on a super flimsy thing, and the record is quite noisy, so it's one of those. I'll hold on to it until I find a better copy, I think, which I don't normally do, but that's the way it goes. Left my home in the age of 10. I made a promise. We're going to go... God, I can still stay in the UK here. And then we're going to Europe, and then we'll go to Fiji. And then we'll end it there. This one is all thanks to Mr. Anthony Camplone, who switched me onto this. I probably wouldn't have given this a look in unless he recommended it. I haven't got any Yoko Ono records. I haven't really investigated many Yoko Ono stuff, but this is probably, I've been told this is one to check out, and I was with him when we found this at the record fair in Melbourne. We went to a record fair together, and this is one of the last things I found. I was just walking out the door. I found it for an absolute steal compared to what it goes for on the internet. 20 Australian dollars, and this is an original UK pressing, so people pay $100 for this sort of thing. For the music, God, this is a very hard one to describe. What I'm going to do is on the Needledrops that I've recorded already, I'm purposely putting the most funky songs on there. But this is a real mixed bag of rock, funk, really nice Fender Rhodes, some almost like Santana-y bits. There's quite a lot of ballads. But the thing that shines through this really is Yoko's lyrics and her voice and her personality. That's what really, I guess, carries this record through. It's a 2 LP thing, so it's hard to get your head around the whole album as a whole. But I've been really enjoying this. The second track is a really nice, funky track. Really great. There's some really, really interesting talks on lyrics on feminism in here, if you want to give that a read. Approximately Infinite Universe. I mean, it ticks the boxes for really cool artwork too. And I'm going to show you the labels here because I think they're very interesting. We've got the Apple label, and you've got the one here with Yoko on the back. Super cool. Yeah, I actually really recommend this. From what I've read online, it's probably the most accessible Yoko Ono record, purely because it's so diverse, I guess. Definitely a keeper. Yeah. I'm a cool chick, baby. Every day I thank God. How long have I been going? 20 minutes. Jesus. Okay. Now, this one is going to be quite hard to describe, and that's why I've left it towards the end. Lucio Battisti, Amore e non Amore. Now, if I was any more cultured, I would know that's Italian and it means something about love or not love. I would maybe guess, oh, that's probably wrong. Now, I have to admit, I never heard of this guy up until those reissues came out 2 years ago. And I remember specifically hearing him first at Anthony's house when Christian Mizzy, who used to make videos, brought over the album Anima Latina, is that what it's called? And he said, listen to this, but think of Radiohead. And it absolutely blew me away that I couldn't believe it came out in 1970, whatever it was, 4, something like that. So ever since then, I've sort of been meaning to pick up the reissues, but I haven't got around to it. But this popped up here in New Zealand. It's like a 80s pressing with slightly different artwork. It's cropped because the original has a naked woman out of here. But I don't know how I'm going to describe this to you, but it's essentially Italian pop music, which doesn't help, but it's got amazing orchestrations and arrangements and I guess space in it and funkiness, and the pace changes quite a lot. I can't really comment much on the lyrics or the subject matter, but just the way this is put together is just really interesting, really cool arrangements. It sounds wonderful. I realize that's a terrible description, but I can really really recommend checking out this dude, Lucio Battisti, Amore e no Amore. I love it, and hopefully you guys will too. God, how cheesy is that?
Ho messo il vino nel frigo.
Moving on. Let's go into some electronic stuff. This is one that I also found cheap, marked down, that I've been after sort of for a long time. I wasn't in any sort of rush to pick this up, but it popped up really cheap and I snapped it up. Laurel Halo Dust. Laurel Halo is a electronic musician from, I want to say, California or Colorado. Bleepy bloopy. It's electronic music, but the thing that sets this record apart is the vocals in here are very human, in a weird way. They're kind of, they're spacey vocals, but they have a really human element to it that really ties it in. The thing that probably makes it more accessible for me is that she uses a lot of samples and sound textures that are probably you would associate more with acid house or 90s rave music. So that's probably something that was a bit of an in for me getting into this record. It's one of those records that it starts off quite easy and then the whole thing just sort of falls apart and you get this really, really nice sense of, like, I guess, zero gravity. Everything starts to float and space out and fade away, and yeah, it's really, really cool. And this is one of my new favorite gatefold inside from a graphic design point of view. I really love how this sits here, and I love these font choices. So yeah, Laurel Halo Dust, really, really wonderful. Just listen to it. It's really good, really good. I've tried with some of their other things, but it hasn't really connected with me as much as that one. And I remember hearing this when it came out, and it's just sort of been one of those ones that I just never got around to picking up. Speaking of dance and electronic music, this is something that I probably should have had long ago, but I will admit that I'm really late to the party with this. What sort of tipped me over to getting this is I watched a fantastic documentary, which I will also leave a link to below. And it was a documentary about dance music and dance culture in the UK, and how in the space of sort of 5 years, it transformed completely, and how electronic music and Detroit techno and the use of drugs and rave culture really transformed the UK in such a small amount of time. And it's a really Okay, now we're here for the last one. I'm not going to say I've saved the best for last or anything like that. And this is a record that I can probably only, I would say, half recommend, which I know is a really interesting thing to say. People will know this is straight away, you'll spot the Vertigo thing. This is a Fijian group called Mantis. This is their only album, Turn Onto Music. So I guess you would describe this as like Pacific rock or Pacific funk rock. Mantis were a band that used to perform in a bar called the Golden Dragon in Fiji in the 70s. And they came over to Wellington here in New Zealand and recorded this album. Now, what I'm going to say is the first side is full of covers that are really, really average. But the second side is, like, mind-blowing. Like, and I mean this. When you think of the best funky jazz records or the funky rock records, this second half is like... And I'm not even saying that biased because it was recorded here or whatever, but it's absolutely amazing. There's a suite called Island Suite. It's just this absolutely monster, groovy, funky track. It goes for basically most of side 2, and it's the sound clips will have to do it justice because I can't really tell you how great it is. And for me, usually I wouldn't buy a record if it's only half good, but the second half is so damn good that I just could not pass this by. It's absolutely worth checking out. And the other cool local thing is my friend actually put together this booklet. He actually came over this morning and we were watching the All Whites soccer versus Ireland match just earlier that I was talking about earlier in the video. But yeah, he put this together. He did a lot of really cool research on this. So he wrote the whole story of the band, which is well worth a read. But yeah, honestly, this is groovy. This is funky. If you like that Dr. Tree record, this is right in the zone. So obviously, originals go for a lot of money. I do know someone in Auckland that has an original, which I saw, but otherwise it's impossible to get an original of this. Absolutely amazing record. I mean, half a record, I'll say that to you. I mean, who wants to hear In the Midnight Hour, Mississippi Queen in a sort of funky rock way? How many times have you heard that? No, but this artwork and side 2 is glowing for me. Oh. So there we go. That brings me to the end of the video. Let me know what you think. Thanks for all the amazing comments. I've had a lot more comments than usual lately, which is really exciting. Lots of new people. Yeah, so that's my recommendations. Cheers, guys. See you all soon.